Hi everyone, so I am here to talk about this foundation. I did a little poll on my community page here on YouTube and a few people voted, and this is the one that got the most votes. It's the Natasha Denona Hy-Glam Foundation. The shade I have is the lightest shade, I believe it's N0.5, and I would say the undertone is more of a pink, I'm more of a yellow, so this kind of clashes with my skin, I feel like. But before I get too much into it, let's take a look at the swatches and see how it compares to other things in my collection. So we've got the Natasha Denona in N0.5, Milk in the Hydro Grip Tint in 1, Estee Lauder Double Wear in 0N1 Alabaster. This is before they reformulated. Maybelline Skin Tint in 102. Revolution Conceal and Define in F0.5. This is the best shade match for me out of this, and just generally a good match for me undertone and depth wise, and that's the MAC Studio Fix Fluid in NC5. And lastly, I thought a similar undertone might be to this foundation because it's one that just doesn't work that great for me, but this is definitely lighter, and that is the Tier Red Cushion in 10C. So I spent a lot of time trying to find something that seems like it would be similar to this foundation, and I just didn't really come up with a whole lot. I feel like it's a little bit more pink than things I have, and I think the closest possibly is this Maybelline Superstay Skin Tint in 102. This is a little bit more on the peach side of things. It's not quite as that kind of muted pink. There's like a hint of peachiness in this N0.5, but not a lot. This is a little more peach, a little bit darker, but I do feel like it's kind of a similar undertone, so maybe if this was too dark for you, maybe this would work. I feel like with me, with my kind of cool yellow, it's not a great fit. I am 46 years old. I have acne prone skin, so I get breakouts like on my chin, on my nose, and that's where I tend to be more oily too, a little bit on my forehead. I have dryness on my cheeks. I have seborrheic dermatitis like underneath my lip here in the corners of my mouth and around my nose. So those areas tend to flake. And what else? I have more like visible pores around here. I have a few fine lines. Things tend to get pretty patchy on my chin, and I just can't wear much coverage. Foundation tends to look really heavy and not great on my skin. So I have tried this foundation out a bunch. So the color straight away was just like, this is weird. It looks weird on me. I have tested this foundation more than I typically do before I make a video. Normally I can wear it a couple times and figure out what kind of skincare I think it works over best, and how it wears on me and how I like to apply it. This one I just had a hard time applying. I felt like I needed to use more product than I really did, so I tended to have too much on my face, and it really just looks heavy, especially around where I have kind of looser skin and the more visible pores. And so I've gone back and forth on a variety of different like skincare preps, and today I made sure to only use one pump, very thin layer, kind of accept that like it's not giving me much coverage. I only want like light to medium coverage anyway. I'm not trying to cover my freckles. I just want it to take down the redness in my skin, get a little closer to like my neck and the rest of my body because my face is darker because of the redness and the like intensity of the freckles like up on the top of my forehead that like sticks out and gets the most sun. So I really tried to go thin layer today, hoping that it would look a little bit less heavy. So I have tried 3 different SPFs. Typically what I do is I wash my face and then I put an SPF on. Depending on what time of the year it is, how oily my skin is, how humid it is, kind of dictates which SPF I'm going to use. When it is cooler and my skin is a little bit drier, I like the e.l.f. Woe Glow, even though this does add a little bit of a warmth and kind of tint to my skin, which I don't love, and it makes it very reflective. The moisture level seems to be fairly good for me. This plus that foundation, it just felt like I had to use a boatload of powder in order to set it down. Same for this, but even worse, it was the La Roche-Posay Anthelios SPF 50 Clear Daily Invisible Sunscreen. This, I feel like, was even more moisture, even more powder. So those two were not great. And the reason I tried those was because the first time I tried it over the e.l.f. Invisible Sunscreen, which is the dupe for the Supergoop Unseen Sunscreen. This is my favorite. I've gone through probably 4 or 5 tubes of these just because I like it that much. It is water resistant, which I love because I'm very sweaty. The first time I tried it over this, I felt like it looked dry. So I tried those other things. I didn't like how much powder I had to use, and it still feels like it never really set down. So I'm back to this one, and I feel like it looks kind of dry. I typically do not like putting a moisturizer underneath my SPF or a primer or anything. I need the fewest layers possible, really, in order to get foundation to look decent generally. The more layers, the worse it looks typically. But I did put just like a hint of my CeraVe PM, just really light moisturizer on my cheeks and a little bit on my forehead to try to add a little bit more moisture to the drier areas of my face, since that SPF is quite dry and not super moisturizing. I didn't set like all the way up here. I just kind of set around here and then through here and underneath my eyes. And this feels, it's not sticky, but it feels just a smidge tacky. So let's zoom in. We can see how it's sitting on my face. Not great. So I have some like healing acne stuff here. I have a little flakiness. That's always hard for any foundation to go over nicely. It doesn't sit well here where I have that dermatitis and the crease. You know, that's a rough combo for anything, but it just feels like it keeps bunching up even though I set it. I feel like my pores are still pretty visible here. I mean, it's not the end of the world, but it's just like I would kind of expect it to be sitting a little bit nicer. It's supposed to be blurring. I don't find that to be the case, because that silicone SPF does do some of the work of kind of like smoothing over pores. I don't find that it creases or settles into the lines. I have a few like really light lines up on my forehead and also like a smaller line up here. And I don't think that it like creases or settles into those as long as I set them with powder. That works really well for me. So the other thing that I was really paying attention to yesterday was whether or not it got patchy on my chin and if it was like transferring off easily. And it was. So it got patchy on my chin. I took a few pictures, so I'll just stick those in here. And also if I just kind of like gently rubbed on my chin, it just like slid right off. So it just doesn't seem to set at all on me. I don't know if it's supposed to, but I don't like things that transfer. You know, I need to lie down periodically through the day because I've got some issues with energy and I need to kind of recoup some energy by lying down for a little bit. And I don't want makeup that's going to transfer onto a pillow or whatever. So I really dislike that aspect. I really, really prefer formulas that do actually set. This one doesn't seem to set. I don't know. It could be just the skincare I'm using, my face. I don't know. If I'm going to have patchiness from a foundation on my chin, which the oils on it just seem to kind of eat through foundation in a weird way, so it leaves it kind of like polka dotted looking, it's going to be something that's a little bit more on the dewy side. It just, for whatever reason, those types of formulas just don't seem to work well with the oil on my face. I don't know what that's about, but that's very consistent. That's something I've seen across a lot of foundations, so I'm not super surprised about that. So I don't know. It doesn't look nice on my face, and I've really tried to kind of fiddle with it. You know, the color not being a great fit makes it that much more like, well, why am I doing this? In this case, it was just for the review. I definitely would not reach for this in the future. It's just the color is not great. I don't like the way that it sits on my face. I don't like anything about it, really. I like that it doesn't have a fragrance. And it looks pretty in some areas. On the more like smooth, plumper areas, it looks nice. But anywhere I have some issues with texture, not good. So that's about it. That was kind of a bummer of a review, but now you know. Let me know if you have tried this foundation, how it worked out for you, what shade worked for you, what other stuff and other formulas color-wise work. I think that's all I have to say. I hope you're having a good one, and I'll see you soon.